Hi there, Terry Duncan with Cut, Color, and Create. Welcome to my craft room. I've got three really fun projects to do today. And so what I think we'll do is get right started because there's a lot to do. What we're going to do is work on backgrounds first. And so first of all, I have porcelain better press cardstock, and I'm going to be using this better press plate. It's called Buffalo Plaid. And I'm going to do that with black ink from is it Regal Tones? I think it's Regal Tones. Okay, the second one is going to be another press plate. And this is the Radiant Starburst from the Classics. And I'm going to do that again on porcelain. And I'm going to be using clay better press ink. And then the third one is a stencil. It's called Scenic Drive, and it's also from the New Classics collection. And I've just got regular white cardstock to do that with. And I've got distress oxides that I'm going to blend with. I'm going to use mustard seed. I'm also going to use the mustard seed on the piece that I'm going to press. I've got ripe persimmons. I'm also going to use that on the Better Press Sunrise too. And then I've got rustic wilderness and salvaged patina. Of course, I've got my blending brushes already. Underneath here, I have what I like to stencil on, and that is Sizzix stencil. I think it's called Stencil and Stamp Tool. So I'm just going to set all these things aside. We'll get started with the Better Press plate first. And I'll just get that out. You can see it's already well loved. I always just keep a little bit of tape on my top cover. I'm just going to line that up with the registration marks. I think that's what they call them. That doesn't seem to be cut even. That's okay. We're going to trim it down anyway. I try and cover the least amount of space with my tape. Try and get that straight. Stuck on there pretty good because it's so big. Now, I always like to just double check to see that it's going to print where I think it's going to, because I have had issues before. It's going to cover the whole thing. So I'm just going to ink that up real well. I tend to twist, which is not a good idea with Better Press ink, because then you end up with globs. I'm just going to see if I don't have another. I do have a bigger one. See how that works. Oh, yeah. Okay, now that I have that inked up, I'm going to run it through my Platinum 6 off camera, and I'll be right back. Okay, lovely. So I'm just going to remove that. And I'm going to set that aside to dry. And I don't know if you've ever seen Kathy Zilski or one of her videos where she uses a magnet that you can get for nail. It works really well. So I use that to take the plate off of the platen or whatever you call that thing. Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm actually going to reuse most of the tape I used for the last one. And this one is stuck on really well. There we go. So this is called Classic Road Legends. Excuse me, that's the collection. Radiant Starburst is the press plate. And I think I'm just going to put that right in the center. And again, I'm going to just double check to make sure that's where I want it. And again, this time I'm going to use the clay. Okay, that looks like it's pretty well covered. I'm going to run that through off camera. And that turned out beautiful. So I'm just going to set that out of the way. I do have some adhesive that's on that. That's why that's sticking. Now I'm going to bring in my stencil and stamp tool. Let's remove that lid because I don't need it. And what this has is sticky mat. I prefer that. It just seems to work really well for me. So I try to put it in the center. Don't know why. And I am going to start with yellow. So this is going to be a simple blend. So I'm just going to start up in the top corner. I have these big brushes because we're going over a large area. And I am going to tap off and start. And I'm just going to blend over the whole thing. And then I think I'm going to make this a little bit brighter right in the center. And that's it for the yellow. And you see, I do have it a little uneven up here. That's intentional. Now I'm going to turn that around so that the bottom is over on this right side, just because I'm right-handed. And now I've got ripe persimmon. And again, I'm going to tap off first. And I'm just going to blend up and around the sun. So I'm trying to be careful not to blend over the sun rays. Although it's okay to be right on the edges, I think that looks kind of cool. And let's see, I didn't get another orange, but I'm thinking maybe it needs to be a little bit darker down here. So maybe I'm toying with crackling campfire or fired brick. I think I'm going to see what crackling campfire does. Yeah, that's what I want it to do. Okay, and that is all I'm going to do with that background. Now, it does stick pretty good. The paper always seems to come off, but you can stick it right back down. I'm going to set that aside to dry. I'm going to get this fastened back on and move on to my next background. So this is a layered stencil set. And it's got 5 layers. I'm just looking to see what we have to work with. Okay, so the first one, this will attach to the grip paper. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to go with my salvage patina. That is the color I chose to use for sky, but I'm going to use a real light application. So I'll ink up my brush and I'm going to tap off over here in the corner, and I'll start down at the bottom and work my way up. It's darker down here intentionally, and then kind of graduate up. You always want to stencil from both directions. And you know, I think I'm going to switch to my smaller brush. There. I don't know what that had on it, but it's got a little more green in it, but that's okay. Okay, there's our first layer. Next layer is this one. And I think I'm just going to use the ink that's already on my brush and lightly apply it. So I'm not going crazy, just lightly apply. And I'm doing that because that's the rings around the sun like that. Next one. And there are marks here that you probably can't see. I don't know if you can or not. There's marks in the corners and there's numbers. The stencils are numbered. I always kind of try to check to make sure that my stencil is aligned with what I did last. So I'm going to use some more yellow, and I don't know what I did with my, here it is. This time I'm going to add a little ink, and I'm going to go with my smaller brush. And this time I'm using a little heavier hand. This is a delicate piece, so I'm holding down the stencil to make sure it doesn't move and that I don't ruin the stencil. See, it's just got that one little place holding it together. Oh, that moved a little bit. Perfect. Okay. And this one is the fourth one. I guess there's 6. And for this one, I'm going to really use a heavy hand. And I'm going to lightly dust the tops of these trees, just so that it kind of looks like the sun is shining on them. And then I'm going to add just a touch of this orange after I wipe off the stencil. Just a touch of orange down here. And then I'm going to wipe the stencil off again. And I'm going to get out my green. This is Rustic Wilderness. And at this point, I don't really care what's on my brush. See that? It's just got a little bit of sunshine in the tips of the trees. Get those good and dark at the bottom. Okay, that's that layer. And then this one goes right here. And I'm going to use a heavy hand. So sometimes your stencil goes off, and I like to repair that by moving it a little bit and filling in those places where it didn't quite meet. There. Okay. Then the last one is some clouds. I'm going to use some tumbled glass, so just a light. And then I'm going to use chipped sapphire with the rustic wilderness for the bottom, for the grass. Okay, so just barely so that you get the idea of the shape of the clouds. That works for me. And then got this chipped sapphire, and I'm just going to do fairly light. I'm just going to go over that with my rustic, and I need to brush that off first. Brush off my stencil so I don't get the blue ink in my brush. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so what do I need all these backgrounds for? I'm so excited. Let me get all of this out of the way. So I'm going to bring back my backgrounds and show you what my plan is. So in this collection are some really cool things. So I've already put together some of these die cuts because they're very, very intricate and confusing. So confusing in that there's all these tiny little pieces. Maybe I should have shown you. So these are the die cuts for this piece. So you see there's millions of tiny little things. This is the muscle car. Okay. And then what I'm using with that is this set up here. This is the speedometer. Okay. So that's what we're going to start with. And my vision was that we'd put this here and that over the top, and it overhangs. So maybe this one is like this. Okay, so that's the first car. Now the next one is this die set. and it's called Timeless Truck. And so this is the vehicle that I made with that. And I may have to cut part of him off. Either that or redo my son. Anyway, that's what I had planned for that. And then the third one is called, I think it's just classic. And that goes there. And you know, I don't want to cut any pieces off of these. So I think I'm going to redo these two. And I won't do that. I won't make you sit and watch me do that again, but I will add the finished projects to the end of this video so you can see what they turned out, how they turned out. Now, I will show you two other things I'm going to add to it, or I'm going to use with it. There are two other sets that go with in this collection that I'm using, the classic sentiments, and I'm going to use something from that for one of them, and then I'll probably use this one, which is cruising by sentiments, and I'm going to use a couple of those for two of the cards. Okay, I went ahead and redid my backgrounds, and you can see I've got them kind of laid out here, and I thought I'd bring you along for the assembly. So I have trimmed down my buffalo plaid background, and I did that using precision layering A2. This is the A version. There's two of them, and this is the A. And I just used this second, actually, I put it in backwards, the second largest die, which is 4 inches by 5 1/4. So I just die cut that out. I've put some tape runner on the back here. And then I'm going to center that on a white A2 card base. So I always stand up to do that because I rarely get these things straight. Okay. And what my thought is that the speedometer will just be centered on there, and I'll have the car slightly lower. And then I was just going to put the happy birthday down here in the corner. I don't, hmm. I don't want to take away from the design, but the sentiment is probably the most important thing. So maybe it'll go up here. So this is getting pretty thick. It's got, I don't know if you can see that, but there's quite a few layers. So I think I'm going to apply the speedometer directly to the card front. And I'm going to do that also with a tape runner. May have been wise to use double-sided adhesive tape, but I guess that's what this is too. So I do think it's important to get that straight. The 50 is probably at the top, so we're just going to try and put it right in the center there. And I'm thinking it'd be kind of fun to have that popped up just on one side so it looks like the car is coming off of the page. So that is what I'm going to do. Okay, and I have some Spellbinders. I think these are 2 mm. And I'm just going to put some of those squares only on this end. So I think right about here. Put one there. Maybe all I need, yeah, I'll put one here. And then just to keep it from caving, I think I can use black ones. This I think this is 1 millimeter. I'm going to put a couple of those in here. And then I'm going to use liquid glue down on this end. And I think I'll cover up that smudge. And sometimes it's good to go off the edge. So I think that's what I'm going to do, just like that. And then I think I've got some strips somewhere here. Yeah. And just going to trim that to go behind. Now I think my happy birthday will go right here. And I'm going to apply that right to the edge. And I'm going to need a little bit of this wherever that thin one went. Here, I've got a little tiny one. Okay, let's see how this goes. There, that's our first card. Okay, our next one, I have a little smudge that I'm going to get rid of. I've got a sand eraser here that I'm going to try and remove it with. That did a good job. Okay, and this one I am going to apply directly to a card base. It's got a little bit of sticky on the back of it already. Okay, now I'm going to add some tape runner. And I use my stamp wheel to make sure I get that on straight. So I put the card base in with the fold side down towards the edge. I push it up against the corner. And then I make sure the top is on the bottom where the fold meets, and I run it down into the corner and lay it down onto the card front. See what a nice job that does? Okay. I think I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pop that up so it looks like it's coming towards you. And this is, yeah, I think I will do that. So this, I'm not going to pop up quite as much, I don't think. Okay, and I'm going to add a little glue to the end on this side. That's good. And then for this, I am going to use these eensy weensy little foam squares, also by Spellbinders. They are perfect for this. Okay, and I'm just going to put that right there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is add the rest of the sentiment to the inside of the card. And we're just going to do that with liquid glue. We don't want any dimension because it is on the inside of the card. And that's it for our second card. Okay, so I'm going to use the whole background panel for this card as well. We're going to use a tape runner to add a little adhesive to the back of the panel. You don't need a lot. I usually just put it on all four edges and then one little swipe down the center. And I had a little extra adhesive there. I got a little aggressive with the tape runner. So we're going to use the stamp wheel again to attach the panel to the card base. The fold is going down towards the bottom edge. And you want to make sure that the top goes down and meets where the fold is. Slide it in and fold it down. And there we have it. Now with this card, I think what we'll do, instead of popping up one side, we'll just pop up the whole truck rather than adding more dimension. And so I think what we'll do is just use some foam strips. Okay, the last thing to do on this card is to add the sentiment. And as you can see, I've already die cut the shadows from indigo cardstock, and I've cut the sentiments from mirror silver. And so I'm just kind of getting a feel for for the spacing of each of the words. And then I'm going to use a T-square to make sure that I get the sentiment straight on the card. And I like to use magnets to hold my T-square in place. This is really handy. It keeps the T-square from moving around while you're adding your sentiment. Now I'm just going to turn this 90 degrees so that it's easier to add the sentiments onto the card without having to look over the top of that T-square. And you can see I've got by doing that I came out of alignment, so I've got to get my T-square straightened back up. And I'm using a reverse tweezers and adding another magnet just to hold it real well. And then I'm just going to use some liquid glue to add each of the words on. This is quick and easy with that T-square. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed making these 3 projects with me, and I hope you try it out yourself. These are wonderful, wonderful. The whole collection is wonderful, and you can find a subset of the supplies down below in the supplies list. You can check out my blog for the full list for each one of the cards, and that's at Cut, Color, and Create. I've also got the links to that and the supplies down below. If you enjoyed today, please click on the subscribe button, and don't forget to click the bell to remind or to let you know whenever I publish new videos. Happy crafting! Bye for now.